This video contains flashing lights, unsettling content and violent content. Viewer discretion advised.
Role-playing games take us on grand quests to save the world and defeat an unspeakable evil.
This can often lead us to some unnerving and disturbing locations, along with a suitable soundtrack to follow us and make our skin crawl.
Working in the background to set a suitable tone as we dive into haunted locales and deadly dungeons.
So still your resolve and stick close to your party as we explore the top 25 creepy music and role-playing games. Terrible Plan of the Vambees, Brave Fencer Musashi. Now here's a bit of nostalgia for the PS1 era. Brave Fencer Musashi has a host of tropes in its colorful game, but creepy music? Indeed it does, in the name of Terrible Plan of the Vambees. This is in the third chapter in the game called, you guessed it, Vambees. The Vambees are a hybrid of both vampires and zombies from folktale, given life by the Thirst Quencher Empire. These creatures abducted an annoying grocery store employee named Tim, and the player is roped into getting an antidote while also going to rescue Tim before joining their undead ranks. What makes this mission worse is soon after, the restaurant owner also gets abducted. Now about the music itself. Its main instrument is an organ that is accompanied with heavy drum beats that give an eerie sound of knocking. There's moments that give off the carnival sound of a creepy ha ha ha. Around the 109 mark, the organ is replaced by a higher tone synthesizer, and the knocking sounds as if it's not only louder, but getting closer. This music changes when you go to places like the mines, restaurant basement, and castle yards respectively. It should be noted that with all its horror movie vibes, it's not as dramatic as it was when players were kids, having most of the player base admit to being scared witless back in the day by the creatures.
Castle Doom, Marvel Ultimate Alliance. The Castle Doom level in Marvel Ultimate Alliance stands out not only for its intense narrative and dynamic gameplay, but also for its evocative and atmospheric music. As players infiltrate Dr. Doom's lair to thwart his catastrophic plans to wield Odin's power, the soundtrack underscores the gravity of the mission. Primarily driven by a haunting organ, it is complemented by the horns, strings, and the subtle harmonies of a choir, creating a rich, textured landscape that immerses players in the gothic horror of Castle Doom. The grandiose and ominous tones of the organ and choir effectively highlight the magnitude of the threat posed by Dr. Doom, reminding players of the high stakes involved. Castle Doom itself is depicted as a colossal, ever-shifting fortress, transformed by Doom's reality-warping powers. The music adapts to this unsettling environment, reinforcing the sense of danger and unpredictability. As players navigate the stone pathways and staircases that spontaneously manifest, they are accompanied by a score that amplifies the castle's eerie and supernatural nature. The initial track sets a foreboding tone, which shifts to a different, equally menacing piece once players descend into Doom's lair and Doom's dimension sections. This musical transition signifies the escalating peril as players delve deeper into Doom's domain. The inclusion of texts proclaiming Dr. Doom as mankind's savior while depicting the heroes as villains adds to the psychological tension. Doom's taunting admission that he could easily kill the heroes but prefers to toy with them further reinforces his formidable and sadistic nature. Despite the classic horror trappings, the music ensures that Dr. Doom's presence remains a constant, ominous reminder of the true threat he poses.
Haunted School, Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. The Haunted School area on Route 1, just outside of Howley City in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, offers players a striking contrast to the cheerful and adventurous atmosphere of the main games. During the side quest to solve the 7 mysteries, the music dramatically changes from the upbeat rap melody to a melancholy atmospheric track as soon as you cross the school's threshold. A melody that undulates eerily with periodic chimes of a bell creates a chilling and suspenseful environment, evocative of the unsettling scores found in horror games like Silent Hill or Resident Evil. Except for a young girl and her Drifloon, there are no students in the school itself, which contributes to the eerie liminal space atmosphere that permeates the area. As players progress through the school, experiencing prearranged appearances of a couple of additional individuals and Pokemon, the music upgrades the creepy climate, building up the feeling of confinement and disquiet. The tasks necessary to solve each mystery, like hiding from Mr. Slimy, contributes to the overall atmosphere of dread and suspense by evoking classical survival horror strategies. Especially when the real cause of the mystery are revealed, the music stops, adding to the tension until players get back to the little girl outside. The level's tonal shift is emphasized by this musical design, making it a memorable moment in the relatively lighthearted Pokemon series. Players are left with a lingering sense of mystery and unease after the quest's conclusion, which reveals that the little girl was never actually present. This feeling is perfectly complemented by the eerie soundtrack that makes up this memorable side quest. Bevelle's Secrets, Final Fantasy X-2. As Yuna, Riku, and Pain go underneath the city of Bevelle, they discover an underground labyrinth with nearby fiends, along with the music showing the area's true colors. From the start, you will hear a women's choir vocalizing in a soprano pitch, with notes playing from a piano, with other string instruments, following along with the main note droning and forming the song to make it sound haunting. As you make your way through the underground, the music will make you feel that whatever secrets are hidden under Bevelle is bound to make you feel cautious. The music even plays as you're fighting the fiends in the depths as well. As creepy as the music sounds, it will also increase curiosity as you wish to find out what is truly hidden in this ongoing labyrinth. The music can be heard when you traverse the underground in Chapter 2, Chapter 3 when the trio talk about Vegnagun going missing, and in Chapter 5 in an optional dungeon called Via Infinito. As opposite as Bevelle's underground is from Bevelle's surface level, would you be willing to stay in the city's depths to find out what the secrets are?
Forest Mystery, World of Horror. With the looming threat of an eldritch horror, you're tasked with solving the town's mysteries and perhaps to halt the ritual before its horrifying conclusion. In line with this horror theme, the music in this game combines a looming threat with a more upbeat danger during combat and boss fights. Among the audio tracks in the game, Forest Mystery proves to be one of the more unnerving and haunting experiences. The sound is heavily synthesized, as if it's coming out of a Game Boy or Game Boy Advance speaker, so it can sound basic and crude, but it still proves to be an unnerving and unsettling experience. Supplemented by the minimalist graphical style, this audio track maintains the same minimalist theme while not compromising the horror experience. It only plays during the bizarre brew of the blood-curdling botanist, mystery in the non-combat sections throughout the mystery. It starts off quiet, with the sound of a distant noise, much like a police siren, before building up into a higher tempo and volume melody, which ramps up the tension and the pace. You're reminded that danger lies around every corner, and to pick up the pace as the looming doom counter counts ever closer to oblivion. Top floor, Sweet Home. Sweet Home is a survival horror experience which is often heralded as the inspiration for the Resident Evil and Corpse Party franchises. Inspired by the Japanese movie of the same name, you take control of 5 trapped explorers searching a haunted mansion for a way out. Death and danger lurking around every corner. Once the generator is reactivated, the second floor becomes accessible, triggering this disturbing audio to follow your steps throughout the second floor. Since this was on the NES, the audio is heavily synthesized due to hardware limitations, but it is nonetheless incredibly effective at generating tension and unease. Every step feels like a step towards death, with random monsters attacking you and deadly traps hurled your way. You're well aware of the dangers of the mansion by this point, and now things are ramped up a notch as you delve deeper. Stronger monsters and dangerous traps litter the way forwards, with real possibility of permanently losing team members. The only way to save your souls is to keep pressing on, working together as a team, and pray with all your heart that the way will open for you. But by this point, you're not even halfway through the game, so if you're struggling by this point, then it doesn't look good for the hapless adventurer's chances to reach your own sweet home.
No, no, I don't die. Eternal Sonata. In Eternal Sonata, the piece No, no, I don't die, also known as Who Wants to Die, encapsulates the haunting atmosphere of Lento Cemetery, where the party traverses to obtain water from Simile Spring. The composition begins with a subdued, almost whispering tone that gradually introduces choral groans, adding a layer of eerie solemnity. As the track progresses, violins join the mix, weaving a mournful melody that complements the faint high notes of a piano, which intermittently punctuate the piece. This intricate interplay of sounds creates a haunting soundscape that mirrors the tension and desolation of the cemetery. Throughout the composition, there are moments when the music swells, hinting at an impending crescendo, only to retreat back to its original tranquil yet unsettling volume. This dynamic ebb and flow evokes the image of someone slowly succumbing to death, experiencing fleeting bursts of vitality and resolve that ultimately dissipate. The music's ability to convey the struggle is particularly poignant given the game's setting within the dying dreams of the renowned pianist and composer Frédéric Chopin. The fog-shrouded cemetery, which requires the player to disperse the mist using candle flames, enhances the feeling of tension and uncertainty. The music's ethereal quality and its thematic relevance to the game's narrative make No, no, I Don't Die a profoundly moving and atmospheric piece, reflecting the game's exploration of life, death, and the ephemeral nature of dreams.
Unrest, Drakengard 2. In Chapter 2, Verse 7 of the game's story, Noe, an heiress, attempt to capture Mana for her crimes in the Closed Land. When you arrive and traverse the terrain, some unexpected music is going to sneak up on you. From the start, you will hear a low droning note with a metal sheet clashing on a surface, the sound of wind chimes, and the sound of a heavy chord being struck. Eerie harmonizing of a woman and beats of a drum can be heard moments later in the background, along with creaking and grinding of metal that will make you wince uneasily as you hear it, and a stringed instrument playing an unnerving high note. rest of the music comes into form as you hear the rhythmic beat of the drums, the droning become audible, an unknown instrument playing in reverse that sounds as if someone is breathing in your ear unexpectedly. A male choir is then harmonizing with the same string instrument, making the hair stand on the back of your neck. Not only will you hear this music in this chapter, but it'll also play again in chapter 3, verse 3, in the same area, saving a band of merchants from monsters, along with chapter 5, verse 4, while you play as Legna, trying to escape the knights from the sky. In chapter 11, verse 2, this music fits when you're inside the ancient tomb, learning of the past events of a prophecy, and when you make an escape, as it is collapsing in free expedition mode. Even though the game is not a horror role-playing game, hearing the music will make you double-check your surroundings as if it was, especially as it continuously disturbs your ears with sounds that'll chip away at your sense of security.
Strains of Insanity, Chronotrigger. Chronotrigger has been lauded as one of the best games ever made for many reasons. The gameplay and combat feel fantastic, the story is immersive and impactful, and the world is a very lived-in and rich one. Nearly every element of this game is perfectly placed and flawlessly utilized, and the music is no different. With the spurned Night Frog by your side, you are ready to seek redemption and retribution. As your party marches on towards Magus's lair, you feel an emboldened sense of pride and duty in your quest to defeat the Fiend Lord and save time itself, until you enter his keep. As you traverse the stone tiles of the Fiend Lord's castle, this penetrating music will grate on your psyche without ever letting up. The constant droning whine keeps you on edge as you face the hordes of fiends that populate the keep, never giving you a moment's rest. The low and subtle tones that echo throughout the whine reflect the mysterious and powerful nature of Magus himself, a cryptic, powerful, and undeniable force. Underlying all this anxiety and tension is a mysterious wailing that echoes from somewhere deep within the castle. Even when our heroes reach the top of Magus's keep, amidst the clashing of swords and sounds of powerful magic, that deep, piercing wail can still be heard. While your party is focused on the battle at hand, you'll be left to wonder if those distant howls come from some pained and tormented beast locked away deep within, or if it's actually the dark and insidious laughter of something far more terrible.
Micolash, host of the nightmare, Bloodborne. Take a moment with Bloodborne and just play the game without the music. The areas and bosses would still give you an eeriness that oftentimes creep out any first-time player. Now, if you look at Micolash by himself, he would just appear as an odd boss for first-time players. If you play his music, however, it opens the door to why he is on this list. It starts with the titular character's boss fight in the Nightmare of Mensis near the end of the game. The music starts off with deep bells, followed by a violin and piano, in which the latter starts to pick up insanity. The up and down dancing style of the piano keys, demented yet organized, is paired well with its violin counterparts screeching in high notes. The ghost choir, sounding like voices echoing in the mind at first, builds up and gets louder, especially in the soprano section. The climax gives you the sense of the end is nigh and that there's truly nothing that will end the nightmare you waltzed into. With a sustained note from the choir, violin, piano, the music plays until it finally stops, almost instantaneously. This deliciously frightening track serves as a chronicle of how Micolash went mad in his pursuit of seeking cosmic knowledge. He was regarded as one of the brightest minds in Yharnam, on the path to understanding the Great Ones. He was driven to the point of insanity by getting far too close in his pursuit, a stillbirth in the brain, some would know it by. With both a cohesive flow at times, and still giving off sinister charms, you even will get to hear some of the host's ramblings in the boss fight. Some are actually facts you wouldn't expect from a mind gone mad. Alas, when you've gotten to the end and the music cuts off, the silence leaves his final ramblings raining out. This could be due to the fact that he is forced to awaken back in his mummified body in Yargul, and that all he learned from the nightmare will die along with it. Micolash's tale truly is madness manifested, and with his song, gamers can get a taste within this host of nightmares.
Caverns of Winters, Earthbound. The world of Earthbound is full of many quirky and charming locales. Winters, the home of our third hero Jeff, is one such place, albeit quiet and cold. After escaping from his boarding school and hitching a ride on a smiling purple lake monster, Jeff must trek through the snowy woodlands of Winters with nothing but a toy gun and a bubble-blowing monkey at his side. Jeff feels alone and apprehensive when confronted with the untamed wilds around him, and you as the player feel that same sense of loneliness and unease as you lose the comfort of your stronger party members. But as soon as you enter the Caverns of Winters, you feel a sickening sense of dread fall all over you. The warm and uplifting music of the outside world is silenced, unable to reach you in the darkness, and is instead replaced with the piercing cries and wails of creatures that lurk within the crystalline cave. Sounds of anger, pain, and death reverberate in your ears as you wander the cold, stony corridors. The Cavern of Winters serves as a final trial for Jeff, and the horrific, groaning ambiance that constantly echoes throughout the caverns emphasizes his fears and turns them into a haunting reality. Have you brought enough supplies? Is it not too late to turn back? Do you have the strength to face the beasts within? What if the only thing awaiting you in this dark and damp place is death? These thoughts and more rack your mind as you battle powerful creatures and the overwhelming unease brought on by strange and horrible sounds. When you finally make your way out of the cavern, the uplifting theme of Winters returns, congratulating you and Jeff for confronting your fear. When you eventually return with Ness and a full party to confront the boss of the cave, you may feel emboldened and ready for anything. But be ready, for the shrieks and wails of creatures unseen will be waiting for you as well, and eager for your return.
Trail of Blood, Final Fantasy VII. One of the powerhouse RPG games of the PS1 era, Final Fantasy VII is loaded with some powerful audio tracks that elicit all manner of emotions. Trail of Blood is one of the less used ones, but also quite unique in its more terrifying tone and horror vibe it produces. When escaping confinement from the Shinra HQ prison cells, you're greeted with a blood trail and a haunting soundtrack made up primarily of a violin playing a chord over, while a metallic knocking sound can be heard. This only builds up to drum beats and tapping noises, finally building to an expected crescendo, only to return to silence, followed by violin once again. The scene is further exacerbated by the corpses along the blood trail, murdered by something far more monstrous than the corporate evil you're used to, something far more dangerous. The same audio plays while exploring the Cave of the Gi in Cosmo Canyon, a cave filled with monsters and lingering spirits of the invading Gi, living in perpetual torment and hate of the living. Exploring the cave becomes more and more unnerving as you progress with this haunting soundtrack lingering in your ears with every step. Many of us remember Final Fantasy VII as a strong RPG, but few remember these haunting and disturbing moments, with the music title reflecting the first time we hear it play, The Trail of Blood.
Distortion World, Pokemon Platinum. The Distortion World is a parallel dimension of shadows inhabited by a single malevolent Pokemon, Giratina. While traversing this distorted landscape, an unnerving audio follows your every move. It's best described as an underlying hum that can be heard throughout your journey, with elements of chiming bells, piano notes, and a fair amount of synth music, all coming together to form an ominous atmosphere where nothing feels right. Descending through the floating islands and gravity-defying routes, all the while with this soundtrack crawling down your ears, helps to set the tone of an alien world unlike our own. This also helps to build up the tension as Guillotine stalks the landscape, an all-powerful Pokemon banished by Arceus into this isolated shadow world, doomed to silently watch upon a reality while separated from it. There are no random battles and no other entities to be found. It is truly a dead and desolate place. The soundtrack helps to evoke a feeling of isolation, but also a feeling of tranquil fury. There is peace in the lonely islands, but the distortion shows elements of violent chaos of a destroyed world. Are you ready to face down the master of this ruined domain of darkness?
Psychopath, Mad Father. In Aya's quest to save her father from the cursed monsters that now haunt their home, you gradually discover that they may have a good reason to hate the man. Reaching the second basement floor, Aya discovers where her father kept his captives he used for his horrible experiments. On this haunting backdrop is a soundtrack called Psychopath, which seems an apt name at this point as we discover the depths of Father's psychopathic tendencies. It starts off with simple piano and chimes accompanied with gusts of wind. Scratchy string instruments add to this, bringing a more haunting and ghastly atmosphere to the dark and dank prison cells. As the audio proceeds, sounds of distant tapping can be heard, perhaps Aya's footsteps, or perhaps something else on a quest for revenge. Considering the point this audio plays at, it likely indicates Aya's gradual realization of the true depth of the evil her father has engaged in with his experiments. The truth is revealed that the father Aya loves so much might actually be deserving of the revenge these monsters desire. Is father deserving of redemption?
Nightmare reflected in the mirror. Tales of Vesperia. Nothing is sure to spoil a fine day at sea more than a mysterious abandoned ship floating listlessly amongst the waves. Sadly, that's what awaits the brave Vesperia killed on their journey across the ocean. As they get close to the ship, their boat starts malfunctioning before it too lies completely dead in the water. Knowing the ghostly vessel is probably the cause of their troubles, the party splits up to explore and find the source of whatever curse they have stumbled into. While you wander through this wooden maze facing off against ghoulish enemies, you are constantly assaulted by the rising, shrieking wails of the damned, set against ear-piercing piano chords that grate against the surface of your psyche. Ghostly moans rise and fall as the spirits that wander the ship move and surround you. Seeing every step you take deeper into the bowels of the ship, the quick and sudden strokes of the piano emphasize your confusion as you climb and descend each deck, trying and failing to find the cause of this curse, or even your way out. After your initial party gets trapped, a rescue team is formed to find them, which brings all of your crew together once again. Now you are all stuck here. Will you be emboldened by the strength of your team and escape this floating wooden prison, or will your souls sink into its boards and join the wails of the drowned and damned?
Ceremony, Secret of Mana. The song Ceremony appears at many pivotal points in the Secret of Mana, all of which are rife with mystery and terror. The soundtrack is first heard in the ruins east of Pandora. It then reappears at the ruins north of Northtown, at the sunken stronghold soon before the battle with Hexus, and again right before the ultimate confrontation with Lich in the Mana stronghold. Unsettling mood is created by the piece's haunting xylophone tune, which is played in a decidedly frightening manner. This primary theme loops with a haunting regularity, sometimes joined with an unidentifiable sound that sounds a little like the sound of a car moving away in the distance. The odd sound adds to the atmosphere of dread and discomfort, contributing to the track's otherworldly quality. The song does a great job of conjuring up the impression of wandering among abandoned buildings or ruins. Its xylophone-heavy arrangement and ominous undertone create a sense of lingering mystery and peril. Although the track doesn't directly threaten the player, it does a good job of settling the mood for places where danger might be hiding in the shadows, which makes for an intensely tense atmosphere. The atmosphere of the game depends heavily on this feeling of dread, especially in the minutes before important confrontations or conflicts. Ceremony is a memorable and appropriate composition for the game's most enigmatic and foreboding areas, because it successfully strikes a balance between a spooky tranquility and the expectation of hidden perils. Disturbed and Twisted, Vampire: The Masquerade, Bloodlines. The moment you open the door to the Ocean House Hotel, your ears will be introduced to a droning ambience, with synth chords and strings that will give you the sensation of foreboding flow through you as you enter. Along with the droning and the string instruments, you can hear chiming notes which sound like a child's toy, along with string instruments playing in reverse, making your nerves stand on edge. The music naturally fits with the paranormal activity in the hotel, making you lose your concentration and increase your paranoia. Not only does the music play in the hotel, it also plays as you enter Alistair Grout's mansion, to where other than the paranormal experience, you are exposed to his indomitable vampire creations. Be it the hotel or the mansion, The music will make the fear within you rise, or cause you to feel uneasy for every passing second. Disturbed and Twisted is equally impactful.
Guillotine World, Yume Nikki. Yume Nikki is a freeware game made using RPG Maker 2003. The player controls Madotsuki as she explores her dreams, collecting 24 effects that can change her appearance and equipment. While most of the areas are usually black voids with props and NPCs scattered around, it's the music in each area that tends to stick with players long after they've played the game. Madotsuki's dreams have numerous recurring themes of violence, such as split-open stomachs, severed heads, eyeballs, and torn-off limbs. One such area, called the Guillotine World, can only be accessed through a bleeding wall in Numbers World. This area is a purple looping landscape filled with lunatic chasers called Toriningen, or bird humans, who will catch the player and teleport them to an inescapable place. The music, however, that is heard here sounds like eerie, scraping metal that gets louder and quieter over time, creating suspense as the player desperately tries to find the exit to this area. While the theme doesn't change pitches and is looped continuously, the overall effect is hauntingly effective. The player will need to find an animated guillotine with eyes, which gives them the severed head effect. They will then need to find the exit hidden in one of several closets. However, most of them will reveal eyes blocking their advancement. Once they've finally escaped back into Numbers World, players can breathe a sigh of relief, realizing they'll never have to traverse back into Guillotine World again.
Lavender Town, Pokemon Yellow. The Lavender Town theme from Pokemon Yellow is one of the most iconic and unsettling pieces of music in video game history. Composed by Junichi Masuda, this piece is renowned for its eerie and haunting atmosphere, which perfectly complements the town's association with death and mourning. Lavender Town's most famous landmark, a tower cemetery for Pokemon, is central to the game's narrative, and this music accentuates the somber mood of the location. The composition begins with tritones, specifically a C major sus2, setting a dissonant and uneasy tone that persists throughout the piece. This, combined with the melody that follows, gives the track a dirge-like quality, reminiscent of a funeral march. Masuda's influences are rooted in 20th century avant-garde music, with comparisons drawn to Igor Stravinsky's ritual preparations of the ancestors from the Rite of Spring. The harmonic structure of the piece features crunchy chords, moving from E minor to C major, and then transitioning into C sharp minor. The progression adds to the unsettling feeling, with the high-pitched, ghostly noises produced by the Game Boy Color's hardware, enhancing the sense of creeping dread. This unique sound design even led to the changes from the original Japanese red and green versions, where higher-pitched noises were toned down due to reports of physical discomfort among listeners. urban legend of Lavender Town Syndrome, a creepypasta suggesting that a binaural beat in the original music caused children to self-harm, adds a layer of infamous mystique to the already chilling composition. Overall, the Lavender Town theme is a masterful blend of melody and atmosphere, evoking a deep sense of melancholy that has left a lasting impression on players.
Pulse and anxiety, fear and hunger. As the name implies, Fear and Hunger is a game about managing your fear and hunger as you wander the seemingly endless halls of an ancient dungeon. While the hunger your character feels is purely mechanical, the fear that you will feel while playing this game is more than real. The dungeons of Fear and Hunger are home to many terrible and horrifying creatures that will either kill you or use every real and tangible fear imaginable to send you spiraling into madness. Eldritch abominations, creatures made of oozing, bleeding viscera, even unclothed guards revealing their misshapen, throbbing organs. No matter what it is that terrifies you, your fears will be made manifest as you sink deeper into the clutches of the dungeon. When your body is finally broken and your mind is long since shattered, and as your spirit lies dying, you will finally hear this song. When you finally face something that seems impossible, incomprehensible, and wholly not of this world, this is the sound that you will hear. Blaring tones shove your already weary body to the ground with an unnatural heaviness, beating you into submission. In between the cacophonous strikes that hammer against your head, you'll hear long, strange tones and whistles that probe into your mind and screech along the surface of your brain, filling it with unknowable otherworldly knowledge. Underneath the sounds of this mental assault is the steady grinding and crunching of some ancient stonework machinery, churning bodies into piles of unrecognizable flesh. All of this before you even make your first move. The name of this song, Pulse and Anxiety, is very fitting, since your racing pulse and rising anxiety will be the first things you feel as you hear it, and some of the last things you will ever feel.
Cellar, the witch's house. The music from the witch's house, Cellar, perfectly captures the atmosphere of the gloomy second floor, particularly the location of the large spider puzzle with its masterful blend of tension and dread. The track begins with a low, resonant note that sounds like a deep wind instrument, accompanied by the delicate tinkling of wind chimes and a violin's high, eerie notes. This blend makes a spooky soundscape that promptly imparts a feeling of disquiet in the player. This uneasy feeling is heightened by the darkness of the room, making each step forward feel like a cautious exploration of the unknown. The bass line enters at 54 seconds in, bringing an urgent and repeating rhythm that heightens the foreboding atmosphere of the song. This bass line's relentlessness might make the player feel as though they are being followed slowly, making them want to flee even more. The bass's constant pounding can give you a headache, as one YouTube user rightfully pointed out. This could be done on purpose to increase your tension and discomfort as a player. The spooky atmosphere is further enhanced near the end of the track at approximately 1 minute 19 when distorted and echoing voices enter the song. There is a morbid horror to the event that could be represented by these voices as the souls of the witch's sacrificed victims. This auditory crescendo aligns with the dire consequences of the puzzle. If the wooden butterfly is not placed back in the web, the door locks and a deadly spider descends to deliver a fatal bite. The music effectively mirrors the player's realization of impending doom, transitioning from an initial sense of unease to a crescendo of panic as death looms ever closer.
Blood for Lisa, the Painful. The quest to find Brad's adoptive daughter, Buddy, will take you through a wasteland hellscape made up of the most depraved, monstrous, and disgusting creatures the end of the world has to offer. One such location is Nice Neighborhood, an offshoot of Area 2. Has the unique soundtrack, Blood for which makes this already disturbing location something truly skin-crawling. A sound that can best be described as groaning and growling can be heard in the distances, alongside banging that sounds like banging on a chain-link fence. As you explore the dilapidated industrial complex, the growling sounds like predators waiting to jump out at you, likely the growling creeps hiding in the industrial complex. This place was once where Project Joy was in development, which may explain the high number of remaining creeps and mutants resulting from the hyper-addictive drug, Joy. Wandering the zone made up of degrading industrial structures and the occasional hanging corpse. The soundtrack really makes you feel like you are exploring somewhere you don't belong. A place where the ghosts of the past merge with the horrors of the present after the Great Flash ruined everything.
Dementors, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban is a Game Boy RPG that loosely follows the plot of the 2004 movie. Near the start of the game, Harry, Ron, and Hermione board the Hogwarts Express, ready to start their 3rd year of wizarding school. After finding a nearly empty cabin to ride in, the train comes to a sudden halt in the middle of nowhere. Being the resourceful protagonists they are, Harry and crew exit the cabin in an attempt to find out what has happened. Backed by a light and whimsical tune, this seems to be the first step in a fun and interesting adventure through a magical world of wizardry. That is, until the main lights burst in a flash of lightning, and the world outside is left dark and ominous. Shadows descend upon the train. The warm and charming music that once spread throughout the cars is replaced by piercing wails and thunderous booms of heavy drums. Ethereal voices ring out in a ghostly chorus, filling your ears with every terrible and horrifying tone imaginable. The cries of the Dementors, shadowy creatures that feed on the souls of the living, are unmistakable and arouse fear in the hearts of any who hear it. All who live in the wizarding world are terrified of the Dementor's kiss, which is said to be a fate worse than death. A question remains, however. Is the Dementor itself laying out those horrifying wails, or are they coming from the tortured souls trapped within its tenebrous body? Knowing one of these creatures is looming around the train, leaving a trail of deathly cold frost in its wake, is enough to give any player nightmares. Where once there was wonder and nostalgia, is now an ever-impending sense of death and doom. When you finally come face to face with the Dementor, you can almost feel the dread seeping off of its billowing black cloak. Before it has a chance to feed on any of the young wizard's souls, the creature is run off by the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, Remus Lupin. Thankfully, this section only lasts a few minutes, but it is a few minutes you will never forget. However, knowing this game is an RPG, you are left with one last question. When will you need to face one of these terrifying creatures again?
Not safe. Off. You play as the humanoid entity named the Batter, and wander in 5 zones that are full of color with odd-looking entities that you have to battle. In zones 1, 2, and 3, if you defeat one or all of the guardians with the screen turning from red to white, you can return to the zones with the color now white, black, and gray, with the music also changing with the scenery. From the start, you'll hear what sounds like a metal baseball bat hitting the surface of another metallic object, and some kind of thuds in the distance. A disembodied yell can be heard along with some kind of static, and whispering that you are unable to understand along with shushing, which will give you an uneasy feeling as you traverse the zone you purified. A sound of blowing wind is heard, followed by the sound of someone banging loudly on possibly a door in the background from your left side that could possibly startle you, with another disembodied voice yelling as the banging continues. Afterwards, 3 notes start to play from an instrument at the end with the metal-on-metal sound. Returning to the zone, or zones you purified, with more disturbing entities that look like infants, will give you the impression that you took life away from them, and it will certainly make you feel what the song's namesake is called.
Flesh Path's world, Yume Tuki. During your travels throughout the dreamscape of Yume Tuki, you may eventually find yourself wandering through the visceral halls of the Flesh Path's world. Hidden deep within a horrific segment of the interconnected dream worlds, the Flesh Path's world is aptly named. The walkways of this area are bulbous and pink, making you feel as if you're traversing the body of some giant, long-dead creature. Beyond the pathways, amidst the emptiness of this vast void, are many fleshy openings that resemble festering wounds being eaten away by some creeping disease. As you try to escape from this hellish place, the backdrop will constantly shift through hazy images that appear to be mounds of misshapen viscera. The accompanying music in this area does nothing to assuage your fears. Deep droning sounds of a hidden world never meant to be seen reverberate against your skull, while childlike notes play in a descending tone, beckoning some terrible unseen force. After these notes play, a tolling of deep chimes resets the sequence like some hellish, never-ending ritual. As you cross the bloody paths that make up this area, you will find many severed heads that act as pathways through this world of blood, transporting you deeper into the unknown. Some of these heads may look familiar, taking on the shape of friends you may know or figures you may recognize. Some of these doorways even look like yourself. This world of flesh is a strange and sadistic one that you were never meant to see. The longer you traverse its winding and ominous paths, the longer the music will drone on, pushing you further into the depths of madness that encapsulate this world.
Thank you for watching. And on this page, thanks to our members. If you are interested in supporting us, we have 3 tiers: bronze, silver, and gold. Each one comes with perks. We'll do our best to keep you up to date on what's going on. And special thanks to our patrons. Again, if you are interested in supporting us, the link to our Patreon is in the bottom left-hand corner, down here. We also have a Discord link here, and a Ko-fi page. But that's enough from me. Let's see the creators of the video. Visit their social media links, if they provided you some entertainment. I'm XJ. Until next time.